obvious with New Method Wellness.
Ready. Hello. Welcome to Stating the Obvious with New Method Wellness. My name is Dr. Deanna Crosby. Today I am interviewing my dear, sweet, longtime friend Shannon. Shannon, would you say hello and introduce yourself to us?
Hello, my name is Shannon, and I like being called a longtime friend because it keeps me from not feeling like I'm not 15 anymore.
I was just trying to tell Anna, were you 15 when I met you? I
Yep.
couldn't remember if
No,
you were
no, no,
15
no,
or
no, no, no.
16.
No, I was older than that because I met you what year was it? I was already graduated from high school then, for sure. I was graduated at that point, but it doesn't matter. At some point, time just shrinks and then
Yeah,
doesn't matter. But no, I think it was at least
17.
35 years ago, maybe.
For me, it was 34.
Okay, well then I was 19.
Okay. Yeah, you'd really matured by then. I remember that.
Absolutely 100%. It's the difference between 15 and 19 is ridiculous. The difference between 15 and 53 is like so minuscule.
I know. Isn't it
You just have
sad?
to come around again. It's incredible.
So tell me, Shannon, like what might people know you for? Like what could I say? This is my friend and she's
Hmm.
famous, and how would people know you?
I would not say that I'm famous, but I have other famous people who are famous. So people would probably know me most recently from Sesame Street. I have been a director on Sesame Street for the past 5 seasons, I want to say.
How cute is that? Are you
Um,
dying? That's just, I can't even tell you like that you are my shiro.
it's
I
pretty
knew it was
amazing.
like a dream of yours for years.
I grew up on Sesame Street, so like the idea of being a part of something that is such a core memory for me was unbelievable. There are no words. There are literally, when I try and talk about it in very specific terms, it's difficult because I think I regress back to like preschool language to describe what it's like to work on a preschool show that is so iconic and such a part of my like learning and growing. It's bonkers.
Tell me a preschool word that describes your experience being on Sesame Street.
Joy and happiness. That's and love. Like those words are about as basic as you need to be in order to work on a show like Sesame Street. That's it. That's all I need to say.
Who was your
It's
favorite character and who is your favorite character on Sesame?
okay. I don't have a favorite now because I know that the performers who play those characters, and that would be like picking a favorite child, and I
Okay.
just can't do that. But
We know we all have.
uh-huh. But I will say, and that child can change from day to day. My
Minute.
fa- my favorite character growing up was always Count Von Count and Mr.
Of
Snuffleupagus.
what a like juxtaposition, right?
I am a ball of contradictions. So yeah,
Could
but
that
Mr.
be like
Snuffleupagus is like amazing.
what Carl Jung called your light and your shadow?
I mean, maybe.
So
God.
Snuffleupagus, he's like represents, let's just say if we got a little depth psychologist, he could represent your, well, I don't know, is Snuffleupagus a he?
Yes, I believe Mr. Oh yeah, it's Mr.
Okay,
Snuffleupagus.
okay.
So
So he identifies.
yes.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that could represent like the light part of the kindergarten Shannon, and then the shadow part is like he's like all county and OCD and
and I'm a counter too. Like I just consciously or unconsciously like count things regardless. Like it's just something that I do. So I that's probably part of it too.
I love
It's
my
like a
husband.
soothing thing for me.
Oh, I love it too. Organizing. My husband's favorite line is when he used to drink a little bit, like he's not really a drinker, but he did. And I would be like, that's your third beer. And he'd go, babe, no one likes a counter.
Or, like in program, we count so much, right? Like that's part of like what we do as people. So like knowing that exact date and
Yeah.
how much time
Minutes.
it's been,
Yes.
boy, oh boy, I mean, it just speaks to me. So count by count speaks to me in ways that I had no idea so many years later would be so important.
Tell me what your biggest failure was and what you learned from that experience.
I several years ago got fired from a job. Like I was hired to direct on a show, and this is like the most recent. I've had several failures, but
Yeah.
this is the most recent. I got fired from a show. They had booked me for 2 weeks, and then my agent called me and said they're gonna pay or play you, which means that they're paying me for the episodes that I am not going to direct.
Ouch.
And I was supposed to be there on Monday, and this was on Wednesday, and there was no answer given for why. Oh boy, I don't know about you, but I need to know why, right? Like why? And and I was given some kind of wishy-washy answer about like how I had missed a shot or something like that, but I didn't know why, and nobody would tell me. Not a single person would tell me why. And just that they weren't happy with the work that I've done. So I spent, and then I like lost a lot of work after that. Like I was booked on other shows and I got to do those shows, but then then things just started to
Mm.
trail off. And I don't know, to this day, I've never been given an honest answer of why, but I had those many dark nights of the soul, 3 a.m., trying to figure it out, like wondering what I did wrong, what was wrong with me, why was I suddenly failing, um, why was I not directing, like why was I not hireable, which of course equates to why was I not lovable, why was I not like acceptable, what was wrong with me, and like all just so many things. And then I got resentful because I assumed it was this one person
The story you made up in your
that,
head that was for sure
yeah,
true.
oh God, like
I love
so
those
many
stories.
things. And what I realized was, so at some point I had to come around to my own why. Like, what was the why of this particular failure? And and then I recognized something in myself that I had not recognized up until that point. And I was pretending to be a director, like
Mm.
I put my clothes on and I was like, this is what a director would wear. And I like
Mm.
showed up and this is what a director would
Would
do. And this is
say.
what, yeah. And it's like serious imposter syndrome, without any real beliefs in my own abilities and talents. And I found myself in the analysis of everything, recognizing that I was so deferential to other people because I believed that if they had more experience than me, then they knew more than me, and that anything that I knew intrinsically was not right because they said the opposite of what I said. And so they must be right. Because if I knew one way, but they had like 20 years on me in terms of experience, Well, their way must be right. And so I found myself like in deference to a lot of people, even though
Hmm.
like I could say definitively, no, 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 that's what I'm asking for is correct. Or what I want, which is my, which is my, like, which is what's expected of me, right? People hire me to be the expert, not the person that I'm being deferential to.
But like
Right or wrong,
stepping into that, I am the
right?
expert. I work with a lot of people like completing their doctoral degrees. And once you complete your doctoral degree, there's a huge piece that is, I am the expert in my field.
Right.
And it's like, well, if they knew that, like, I wrote that one paper super late, 3 in the morning, and it didn't really give it all, and I didn't really do all that reading, and they knew that imposter syndrome you're talking about is, you know, to really step into, I did a good job. I did all the work. Yeah, I took the tests. I finished the comps. I did all the stuff, you know.
And achieve the thing, right? Like I was there for a reason. I wasn't a mercy hire. It's not like people looked at me and they were like, well, she'll do. It was like,
Or they went, we can't get anyone else.
yeah,
There's no one in
exactly.
Hollywood that wants to be a director.
So you'll do, it's not, I wasn't a 2 a.m. at the bar choice with
Yeah.
beer goggles on,
Yeah.
right? Like,
I love that reference. I mean, that just jumped out in front of me. Visual.
so,
Did you just make that
so
up or have you said it
I
before?
did actually, I just made that up.
Write it down.
So, um, so one of the things, so the failure was not believing in myself
Mhm.
and not believing that I had learned enough as a director over the course of my period of time that I was like worthy of my opinion, and that actually that's what I was being paid for was my expertise and opinion. And so, and I also was like, you know, hey God, if there is anything else that I'm supposed to be doing, like show me.
I'll do
Show
it.
me.
I'll do
I'll
it.
do anything. At that point I was desperate. I was like, show me what you want me to do. Like put it in front of me and I will do it. I'll say yes. You want me to go wait tables at IHOP? I'll do it. Like, you want me to drive for Lyft or Uber or Postmates, like delivering food? Like, I just need direction and help. And then those opportunities presented themselves. It's weird. Um, but I did realize that I was being deferential, and so when this all has come back to Sesame Street because I started working on, and I learned to say yes to everything, right? So what I learned was to trust myself, to trust my talent, that talent was something that I didn't need to be embarrassed about, that I had this gift, and that by not honoring it or like trusting it, that somehow I was spitting on it. Like I wasn't, it's not egotistical. Like one of the things that is the downside for me is we talk a lot about ego, but it's the right kind of ego, right?
Hmm.
Like it's not, having like a superiority complex and a superior and inferiority complex at the same time. Like whatever, I know there's a saying that I'm not remembering, but it's like that there is a humility in owning my talent. And I went to Sesame Street. I say yes to everything now, unless it's unsafe or like unless like I pause and realize that there might be something not worth pursuing in an opportunity. But you want me to do something? Yes, yes, yes. What do you want me to do? I'm in. Like I just put it in front of me. I say yes. And Sesame Street was not on my radar, um, but I worked on a show, and because I worked on that show and because I did a good job and because like I was prepared and ready and knew what I wanted and went in there like with this having been like right sized and knew that I was a director, and I walked in there as a director, and I wasn't deferential. I listened to ideas, but owned the ideas that were right, and discarded the ones that were wrong. And then I knocked it out of the park.
You were saying in
Um,
the job you were doing, like you had been a success, and in the job you were doing.
I realized that I wasn't focused on the now and the job that I was doing. I was thinking about the next job. So I
Mm.
wasn't being successful in the episode that I was in. I was always thinking about, well, what's next? What's next? Hire me again, hire me again. Instead of realizing that if I don't do the work that's in front of me, they're not going to hire me again. So I did this show called Mutt and Stuff. It was Sid and Marty off the legends, land law, Salmon in the Sea Monster and stuff like that. Shows that I grew up with. These guys are amazing. They're really good. Sesame Street called them to look for new directors, and they recommended me. And and I was hired like sight unseen. They offered me episodes. They talked to my agent, and then they were like, "We just want to talk to Shannon, but yeah, she can have 2 days on Sesame Street." Like, what? Just based on my experience and the recommendation. And so everything that I assumed were the reasons why I got fired off that other job, I walked into Sesame Street with all of that baggage.
Mm.
And um, and the very first day, I was, shooting something, and the executive producer came up to me and he said, "Hey, Shannon, listen." I was splitting an episode with another director, and he said, "Hey, Shannon, listen. Matt yesterday missed a shot. So if you remember, I was told that I missed a shot on this show.
Mm.
Hey, yesterday Matt missed a shot, and we were looking over the footage, and we really need it. So would it be okay if we like just pick that shot up really quick? It'll only take like a minute. Camera's already set up. Like we just need to throw Elmo in there, and then we can get the shot." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, of course, yes." And then I thought, Matt's not getting fired for missing a shot, and they got the shot, and we moved on. And then like it just was a series of things. Like I got really upset because most of the time I'm responsible for making sure that I make my times correctly. Like the producer sets out the day, like the amount of time that they think it's going to take to shoot something. And we had the scene that they were going to pick. They were like, "We can another time," but I was like having a panic attack about it. And a director called me aside and said, "Hey, Shannon, why are you so upset? Like, I don't understand like what's going on." And I was like, "Well, we missed that scene, and like I just am afraid that they're gonna hold that against me." And he's like, "This happens all the time. It's okay." And then he said, "Why are you taking my job away from me? Like, it's my job to worry about the time. You don't worry about the time. You get to be creative. If you're worrying about the time, then your brain space isn't like focused on creativity. And I need you to focus on being creative, not on worrying about the time. So don't do my job for me." And he meant it in the most loving, kind of sarcastic way possible. And once I was able to let go of that, it was amazing. So, like, all of these things, like, God is so funny because all of the things that I have been worried about over the course of my career up until that point came up over 2 days shooting at Sesame Street. And at the end of the week, this very sweet man, Marty Robinson, because I had a really successful time. I got, I was focused and prepared and open to ideas, but knowing what I wanted and like all the confidence. And I just went in there, like, instead of pretending that that's what I was, I knew that that's what I was. And at the end of the week, Marty said to me, "Well, we're dysfunctional, but welcome to the family." And then they invited me in with the puppeteers, to like celebrate the end of the week. And it will come probably as no surprise as a major guide shot to learn that Marty Robinson plays Mr. Snuffleupagus. And it was 100% like at a cellular level, the restoration that I needed in order to like move on with my directing career.
Get out of
It
your
was such a pivotal
stuck.
moment.
You
Yeah.
were stuck and you were like, and you just had faith and you practiced faith and then you woke up and it all flowed.
And you know what you told me
Not on
before I
your
went to
time.
Sesame Street?
I don't know.
You told me open the door and let God in first. And I as I was walking into that set, I opened the door and just took a beat and then I walked in. And I remembered that, and that was my very first day there. And it was incredible. It was incredible. So yeah, that was my
Wow.
biggest failure and what I learned from it, and a long story to boot.
So we had a friend named Lois, and Lois, we had her 60-year sober birthday at our house, and 200 people showed up. And
Oh my God.
she died a few years later. I think she had 63 years when she died, but she used to say to me all the time, I'd say, Lois, I'm so afraid of this interview. I'm so afraid of this. She was my like earthly grandmother that I wasn't blood related
Uh-huh.
to. And I'd say, Lois, this, and she'd say, oh, Deanna, all you have to do is open the door and let God in first, and then you follow and everything will be fine. And so I don't know why I said that to you, but must have been from Lois.
Lois is that's the generational brilliance of
Mm.
the connection that we have to the people who came before us, right? Like that had to walk this path first.
Well,
Right there.
so my biggest trauma in my whole life is when I was 9 years old, my grandmother died, and she was the person I was closest to in the world. And she babysat me all like before school, after school. She lived down the street. I was with her 24/7, and she died of cancer. And so I walked into this meeting and I saw Lois, and we had a connection, and she didn't have any children or grandchildren. And I said, Lois, will you be my grandma? I need a grandma. And she said, absolutely. So we hung out, and Bing and I used to go over there and take her to lunch once a month and get her out of the house and hang out with her a lot. And everybody knew her as like kind of part of our family. And she didn't have
Mm-hmm.
kids. So after she died, I know my mom sent me something about our family, and my grandmother who died, her middle name was Lois. And I had never known that.
Wow. Is it odd or is it God? Yeah,
So
that's incredible.
tell me who the three most influential people in your life have been.
Um, Definitely my husband,
Mhm.
Kelly. This God, he just, I look at him and just wonder how in the world he puts up with my bullshit. I am so, but he uh, believes in me like when I get so frustrated with me. Those are the things that tell him constantly that are insecure and are just a word vomit. But because it's like, why can't you see me? Why can't you see yourself the way I see you? Like, I don't understand how you cannot see yourself that way. So he just, we'll be married 30 years this year.
Wow.
And
As
so
soon
for
as you said
sure.
his name, I had a flashback of your wedding picture. Aren't you like getting in a car or something in your
Yeah.
wedding? I had a flashback of that picture.
Yeah. And then another person is Lee Shallot Schemmel, who I met at South Coast Repertory Theater. She is a television director who I met while I was working at South Coast Repertory. We have a very similar kind of career story. Um, and she let me follow her around for 3 years, and I just at her, you know, knee, just looking in everything I possibly could, and she showed me like how the every like the warts and all, just everything about who she was as a director. And I looked at her and said, like, that's the kind of person I want to be. So I was in my pretending, you know, I wasn't, I was pretending to be Lee, and then I finally got to just be me. But it was a good place to, it was an amazing place to start, believe me. I just admire her so, so much. Um, who's a third influential person in my life is probably my dad.
That's so weird. Like right when you started to say it, your dad, I met your dad twice at your house. Didn't he used to live with you?
Yep.
So when he was living with you, I don't know why I was at your house. Maybe you had just had a baby or something.
Not yet, but you came over when I had just had Molly. But no, but he did live with me in Santa Ana.
Okay, I went over to your house when your dad was living with you. I don't know why I was there, but I sat and talked. He was sober, right?
Yep.
So I sat and talked to him about that. I don't know why, but I do remember that. I have that memory.
He he um he's so funny because I look at when I think back on him over the course of my life, like with such loving kindness, and um he really gave people the benefit of the doubt, almost, and to a fault a lot of time. And he was so imperfect. As as, as much as I admire him, I recognize like so many imperfections in him that I have taken on, uh, and not necessarily to my benefit, but he instilled in me a work ethic that I've had to like kind of, scale back a little bit, because I think that there was an imbalance there. But having a really strong work ethic was, something that he instilled in me and my brother. And like his just kindness in the world, especially. And then seeing the benefits of his program, like he, at the end of his life, when he had Alzheimer's, and but he had a group of people who, um, came and picked him up. It was their commitment to come and pick him up and take him to dinner and take him to the meeting. And like he was just so well loved by these men that like looked at his sobriety and like found something there. And so, I am now sober longer, I think, than he was at the time that he passed away. And it just blows my mind that that is even that even happened. So yeah, and he spent the rest of his life living amends for something that he did, that he did not shut the door on that past. And I don't think it's something that he ever forgave himself for. And that's something that I wish to not take with me and not pass down generationally, is that, but he did, ironically, tell me that the first person that you need to put on your fourth step is you. You are the first person on your fourth step. You are the person that you have to take an inventory on and then ultimately make amends to. So, but I don't think he ever allowed himself that grace. Yeah.
What just came to you? What feelings came to you when you were thinking about your dad?
Oh, I just wish that he had forgiven himself. I
Maybe he
wish that
has now.
whenever I dream about him, which I believe, I am a huge believer that energy can't be created or destroyed, right?
Right.
So I just believe that people come to us when we need them most in our dreams. And whenever I see him, he is laughing and he is, or like I'll be somewhere, like we took the kids to Knott's Berry Farm last week. And my dad used to just embarrass the shit out of me because he would dance, like the music would be playing and he'd like, boop, 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 and he would like dance his way across Knott's Berry Farm. And as a kid, I just loved it. He was just showed that joy unapologetically. And then I just found myself doing that
Oh, that's
near kids.
awesome.
And I was like, I know I'm probably embarrassing you, and I don't give a fuck if that's the case, because this is like me just celebrating him. So just, yeah.
What do you think what do you think the one thing about like your recovery program that other people that you believe really strongly that other people might not agree with?
Um, that this I don't know, like nothing controversial. I don't think that there's anything about my program or my recovery that's like controversial in any way. But like one of the things that I say, I think that kind of might undermine some sponsors work with sponsees is just telling people that the only thing you have to do perfectly is not drink. That's it. Don't drink and don't use drugs. That's the only thing that you have to do perfectly to stay sober. And then the rest is up to you. But like how God, I hate this phrase, but I'm going to use it. How free do you want to be, right? Like you don't have to work the steps. You don't have to call your sponsor. You don't have to get a sponsor. You don't have to go to meetings. You don't have to like participate. The only thing you have to do to be sober is to not drink and use. And then, when it comes, it's different when you're a compulsive overeater, because like there are things that you like you have to
Eat
eat.
three
Like
times a
you need
day.
that nutrition.
Yeah.
You There are things that you like absolutely need to live just to meet the standard of basic like living for your body. But also Chris Parks, oops, anonymity, but Chris taught me that can be messy,
Yeah.
that there is
And that's
that there
okay.
you are never going to be perfect. Like you have to accept the fact that you are not going to be perfect in your recovery from your eating disorder. Like that's it. And the sooner you can like embrace that, then and I think if that is one thing that's probably controversial, that people like who follow a very strict regimen in terms of their, and that if that works for people,
Do it.
that I love that, because we get to decide what our recovery looks like. And I think that can be really overwhelming when you're new. I think I think
Oh
when I was
yeah.
new, I wanted to know what the rules were so that I could break them.
Or follow them
And
or
not,
what or
yeah,
be perfect.
yeah,
I want to be perfect.
whatever it is. But I think that it can be really overwhelming when you get to decide what your recovery looks like, and that you get to, and even like picking one thing and then getting to decide that that's not working for you and picking something else and not saying that you have to start over. Whoa, what the hell? Like, you mean like, and I'm speaking mostly in terms of my being a compulsive overeater and my recovery in that, like, um, but like when I first started, it was like, I'm doing 3 meals a day and 2 snacks because that was the most food that I could eat, right? Like that was
Right?
like, oh, that's perfect. Then I'm eating every couple hours. And then if that wasn't working for me, like that I got to decide to do something else, but that my recovery date stayed the same. What? So I wow. That's so I don't know if people.
You know what really astonishes me? Like this is more common for the meetings that we go to nowadays for people with eating disorders. and the support around eating disorders. But if you think about this, Chris was revolutionary 40 years ago. She was going into places where people would look at her and be like, that is not recovery. This measurement and rules, that's recovery. You're not, I mean, for you and I, we talk about it a lot. Everyone talks about it now. But 43 years ago, for her to walk into a 12-step meeting for eating disorder and say, no, I'm just going to do it perfectly imperfect, and I'm not going to start over, and I'm going to love myself even when I do eat way more than I should have. And, she was the first person that said to me, I said, Chris, you're not going to believe how much sugar I ate today. And she said, maybe you needed it. Like, yeah, that's common now, more common for people to say. 43 years ago, I don't think that she
Boy,
was.
howdy, no way.
Have you ever thought about that? Like her being in those meetings and saying those. I remember hearing her like 25 years ago at I went and saw her speak somewhere, and she was explaining her idea of recovery. And someone said, well, how do you know when your sponsees relapse? And she said, they tell me. They tell me I relapsed, and then I know they've relapsed. Like, I'm not counting what they eat every day and telling them you've relapsed. They tell me, And I remember the whole room was kind of like, who is this lady? And this is only like 25 years ago. I mean, so 43 years ago, she was
Bonkers.
way avant-garde.
Yeah.
And I don't think she, I mean, I know she knows that, but like, if you really stop and think about avant-garde, and this kind of in this area, Chris is just head above everything.
Revolutionary. Because the idea that, I mean, one of the biggest things I learned too from Chris, not just perfectly, but accountability, right? That we live in secrecy and shame. And the minute that you throw light on that, and that you find somebody who, wraps you in their arms and says, I know, baby. I know.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
Of course
okay.
you did.
It's okay.
Of course you did.
Yes. Oh, the best words that you can hear.
Of course you did.
You did, baby.
Of course you did. Yeah, it happens.
And then that building that trust with somebody who gets it, and then suddenly what I learned over the course of those first like 30, 60, 90 days was that by reporting my food every day and not lying, or maybe lying in the beginning because I didn't want to be judged, and I didn't know that I wasn't going to get an email back that just said like, oh my God, you're
fired. Yeah, you're fired. You can't come back here.
Oh my God. To not have that was remarkable. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, no, I really ate 3 burritos from Del Taco and 2 quesadillas or whatever. And then to have her go, and then to reach the point too, where she could tease me a little bit about it, right? Like where I was like, I had 10 mini quiches and 10 mini, like hot dogs in a blanket or whatever, pigs in a blanket or whatever. And then I remember one morning she went, mini, mini, mini. And I was like, it was just so cute, because the other thing that showed me was that she took my recovery seriously too. And that she read the things that I sent her. So not only was it like being accountable to somebody with my food, which I had never done before, and that finding a safe place for that, it was also like seeing what I ate and having to remember what I ate. So it taught me how to be conscious in my eating. And then also when I was conscious in my eating, I was doing these mini inventories so that I could see like what was happening emotionally and equating that with my food emotionally. And then I was able to work on the shit that made me eat. And then I didn't have to eat like that anymore. And I had somebody who was like, I know. Yeah, isn't it amazing? Like, oh boy. Like,
she's never said to me in 34 years, she's never said, duh. Like I come to her with these things. I go, Chris, you're not going to believe this. Food can be perfectly imperfect. And she's like, oh, really? Like, she might want to go, yeah, I wrote that 40 years ago, but okay.
Okay. It's
She said her
amazing. Like she
favorite,
lets you.
yeah, her
Oh,
favorite
go
thing
ahead.
now is that people come to her, like young people, and they say, there's this therapist, Deanna, and she says, and Chris is like, does she? And she says she always wants to say, you mean the same Deanna that like snot-nosed cried all over my soap? Would
Yeah,
it be
poopy
her?
pants. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Was that her? Is that who we're talking about? And then they'll say things to her that I said that she taught me 30 years ago. Like, Deanna says Chris, and she's like, does she? Yeah, that's a good thing to
Hmm,
look at.
interesting. Wow, she's brilliant. She's brilliant. Genius. What
Genius,
genius. She must have
genius.
learned that in the schools.
She's so smart and such a good
Genius. She's so
studier.
smart.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I want to ask you a couple more things. What
Yeah.
is one question that I didn't ask you that you wished I would have?
Uh, if getting sober at 15 years old was a phase, how do I know that getting sober so young wasn't just a phase?
I
And
get that all the time. Maybe
yeah,
everybody
right?
drank like that in college. But, I said that for years, Shannon. For years, I said, well, everybody drank. You know what, Shannon? They didn't. Everybody did not drink like that in college. Now, people drank more than normal in college. I'll give you that one. Other people didn't drop classes because of a party.
Right. They didn't also like in the places that I ended up at 15 when that was just not like that. There are things that I did. And the way I know it is that when I got sober, and then now, so many years later, I look at women who are my age or younger, but who are drinking and using the way I did at 15, that are now trying to get sober at, you know, 30, 40, 50 years old, that I just am. And even if, okay, so here's the thing, even if it was a phase, right? What if it was a phase? As I like had that realization last week, then I wouldn't get to hang out with the most amazing and interesting people on the planet, like who love me and support me, and that I've built up a trust over 30 plus years, 35 plus years, that like have watched me have watched me grow and have changed me and have taught me over, like, who gets that? So like, even if I was even if I'm pretending to be an alcoholic, like I'm not giving this up.
Mm-mm.
No way.
My neighbor
No
said to
way.
me recently, he said, you were so young. I mean, you could probably drink again. And I said, well, let's just think about it realistically. Like, as a clinician, I'll tell you what I think as a clinician. So let's say I can drink again. So I have a glass of wine once in a while. So let's say that I can't and I lose everything in my life. Is that glass of wine worth the risk? Like, who takes those fucking odds? Only an
I don't know.
alcoholic. An
Yes.
alcoholic takes those odds. The only people that convince me that they can spend hours in session for $200 an hour convincing me that they should be able to drink again are alcoholics. When my husband had his ski accident, the doctor said, I don't want you to drink for 6 months. And I looked at him, I go, don't you want a second opinion? And he goes, no. He goes, I just won't drink. And I go, are you sure? Because I know other doctors, neurosurgeons, brain surgeons. And he goes, why would I want a second opinion? I just won't drink. And then he went like 18 months. And like, but when the 6 months was done, I came to him and I said, babe, today's your 6 months. And he goes, for what? What are you talking about? I go, you can drink today. He goes, why would I drink today? And I go, your 6 months is up. And he goes, I don't. So I always compare the thinking to that. Like any person who doesn't have a substance problem, if you say to them, it'd be better if you didn't drink, they go, okay. They don't go. They just quit. So
I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah. Boom. Like Kelly stopped drinking when his brother got sober,
oh,
and it was he just stopped. And I was like,
who cares?
you just stopped? And he's like, yeah, I'm in solidarity with my brother. And I was like, but
Do you like it that
you
much?
you can drink.
Right.
He's like,
Why
yeah,
don't you? You
I don't want
can.
to. I don't want to. I'm feeling better. Like all the things. I'm like,
Healthier, no headache.
you are not an alcoholic. You are definitely not one of us in that department. So
So funny. Okay. This is my punchline question. What's something obvious that you wish more recovering people knew?
wow. I mean, I may not be much, but all I think about, and what I think about is like, God, what's something obvious that I wish I knew?
Yeah,
Um, you know what it is? I wish people um, remembered that thing, and this is like as much for myself as anybody else, that like the feelings pass. That 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 line in the promises that I probably focus on more than anything else, aside from your financial insecurity will leave us. The other one is that we don't regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. And that's not because that doesn't just refer to like that time up until our sobriety date. I mean, there's some shameful shit that I've done in my sobriety that is like way worse, not way worse than any
but
drinking.
equal.
Maybe,
Let's
I
say
don't know.
equal too.
Equal, equal. There are things that I've done that a sober person probably shouldn't have done, but or did them. But um, but like the reason why we don't shut the door on the past is because the only way we can know that the future is going to be okay is to look at the things that we've gone through. Like,
Like
you know
history.
what? 100%. Like, yeah, yes. Those who forget are forced to relive it, right? Like I have to remember that I have felt like there's a writer's strike right now, financial insecurity, there's no work, the actors have gone on strike, things are like up in the air and turmoil and stuff like that. Guess what? I've been here before.
Mhm.
It's my third or fourth time going through something like this. Uh, and for the first time, I haven't started freaking out yet. I haven't started freaking out yet. And
Grace above drama. Grace over drama.
oh, perfect. Perfect.
I just heard Anne Lamott. I just read Anne Lamott say
I
she's
love her so much.
she just said, I just read her saying that she came here with group of drunks, and then she moved her higher power to good orderly direction, and now she's moved it to grace over drama.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
I hear you saying like this grace has appeared for you
Yeah.
and you're letting it
Yeah.
in. Good job letting it in. You're doing it. You're doing it. You're doing it. Yes. Go Shannon. Go Shannon.
Yeah. It's it's wow. It's it's there is that is a grace. That is a grace. And I, you know, I'm going to hold on to it just for now, right? Because this grace and feeling might go away, but like it forces me to be in the moment.
Mm.
And so, yeah. So, like, you're going to go through those things in your recovery. You're going to find yourself like coming back around the mountain. It's just you'll be a little further up the mountain than you were the last time. And it'll feel different, but it may look the same. Like in your brain space, it may look the same. So, and then you might like be down in part of the mountain that like you've been through before and you didn't know how you got out of that one. But don't regret the past or wish to shut the door on it, because that's where the answer lies. If you could stay sober through it once, you can stay sober through it again. Or if they're going through it for the first time, there are people who have gone through that want to help you. And that's the experiences that I've had, been, all of the sexual trauma that I've gone through, all of the drinking and using that I've gone through, all of the pain that I've gone through is, do I wish that I had not gone through that? Of course. But how can I turn it back? How can I turn that power? Well, I mean, yeah, but how can I turn that power back on itself?
Mm-hmm.
The way I do that is by being of service. Like
telling the truth.
Like by showing up and telling the truth.
Showing up and telling the truth.
Shannon,
where can people find you online?
I am pretty private person online. I do have a website, shannonflynn.net, which is where you can like find some of the past work that I've done.
shannonflynn.net. shannonflynn.net.
And but like as far as the socials go, I'm not a big socials person. But shannonflynn.net, you can find me, like look for episodes in Street. Find your Disney Plus from the channel shows. Also, I'm on IMDb, and apparently there's a Wikipedia page with my name on it. So.
Stop it. Shannon, it was so great having you here today. I love seeing
a wonderful delight to see
beautiful face. And I appreciate you being here for me. And it's just been awesome. And it's been fun seeing you lately.
I agree.
And thank you for all the little check-ins when I thought I was going to die.
I follow those instincts. You know what I mean?
Me too. And they're usually right on.
Right on. Good. I really, really can't tell you how humbling it is to be asked to be a part of this. It's incredible. And thank you. Thank you to quote the Golden Girls. Thank you for being a friend.
That's perfect ending. I love you so much.
I love you. Love you. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Hopefully I'll see you Saturday.
I'll see you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Stating the obvious with New Method Wellness.